Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and this is the Psychology in Seattle YouTube channel. If you're a cast member of this show or any of the shows that I watch, do not use my videos as a replacement for in-person therapy or assessment. That's pretty obvious, but I feel like I should say that. Let's watch.
If you need to look through my phone to feel better, you're going to find some weird-ass conversations with the boys. Like, dude, my dick's curly today. Like, random stuff. Like, I think it's going a little...
My dick's curly? Why would you text your guy friends that sentence under any circumstance? Unless you were a duck? Anyway, so she told us that she was with her long-term boyfriend and she was planning on getting married to this guy, and then on his phone she discovered that not only was he cheating, but he was cheating with what she said like 20 different women. And yeah, that's rough. Horrible, really. And he is saying, look, you can look through my phone. I'm an open book. There's a bit of talk about religion. So this is Nick, and he is seemingly later in the week still dating two women, both Kate and Annie. And the way that he talks, at least from the edit, it seems like it's deceptive. It's making each woman feel like they're number one when they can't be, right? I don't know if that's the case. It almost seems like Kate and Annie are also still open to other options or something. They don't seem to be really locked in on him as well. With Kate, he asked Kate, are you religious? And she said, well, I'm spiritual but not religious, partially because my mom had really horrible cancer for 10 years. She had tumors that were coming out of her head, she said. And it was really hard, and Kate is crying naturally when she's talking about this, and that when her mom died recently, she and her brother, I think, were questioning religion because they're thinking, how can a God do this to someone, right? And she said something else that I commend her for. She was saying something like, I know that these things are supposed to make you stronger, but it was horrible what I went through. I think what she's saying is that she either receives messages directly or sees in the culture that when you go through something like that, like someone dying or even just having cancer yourself for 10 years, that the proper way of narrativizing it or of the attitude you're supposed to have is like, I'm persevering and this makes me stronger and this really helps me to understand what's important in life, and I don't deal with the bullshit. That's what cancer has given me. And if that's what adversity gives someone, then obviously great. But that's not often the case. There are at least periods of time when you're just suffering and there's nothing good. There's no silver lining. There's no strength that you build from it. You can go through a horrible experience and not narrativize the harm that you went through as helping your personality or helping your life. You can go through a horrible, traumatic event and just acknowledge the fact that it was horrible and you wish you hadn't gone through it, and there might not be anything positive that you can pull from that. There's so much of that sort of toxic positivity in our culture, and it's often required of people. Now, if people have post-traumatic growth or if they have meaning, often they do, right? And I'm guessing as she grieves, Kate, maybe 10 years from now, there will be something that will emerge in terms of the meaning of going through that. That's not always the case, though. And I think that's what she's responding to. She's like, yeah, I know, you're supposed to say that it makes you stronger, but that's not the case for me. So 2 thumbs up to that. But anyway, so now he's talking with Annie and asks, are you religious? So I've been wondering if this guy is faking to some extent. I hate actually getting involved in that kind of thinking because we can never know. And I think that people accuse fakery way more often than is justified. But I've been wondering about it given the way that he talks, given the way that he is talking to Annie and to Kate. He thinks of himself as a player, which is surprising. Sometimes that happens on the show. I didn't show the bit, but he was in the one-on-one interview saying, yeah, guys, women often think I'm a player, like I have a lot of options. And I'm like, they do? And maybe they do. What do I know? But often that's the case, that I will think really? That's how you think people are seeing, or that's how people see you? Anyway, so he is asking her, are you religious? And he is being more honest. With Kate, he said, because Kate said, I'm spiritual but not religious. And then he says, oh, I have a personal, quiet relationship with God, is the phrase, is the exact thing he said, because I wrote it down. And given what he's saying now, that he's Christian, that he is saying, I am a Christian. He's telling Kate, essentially, I'm religious, but I'm not like in your face about it. I think that's what he's communicating. And now he's talking with Annie, and seemingly maybe this is a box that he's trying to, check in terms of a partner sharing his values, his religion. And the reason why I say this is encouraging is that if he were fake, he wouldn't necessarily care about the person's religion. And for him to go on this question between the two seems to exhibit that he might be legitimately looking for someone to spend the rest of his life with, which, of course, how would I know if he's faking or not?
I would like that.
Me too. For the discipline part, I had old school parents. I got spanked.
Same.
I think sometimes they need to be reprimanded.
Hell yeah. Like, I'll be a strict parent for sure. But, like, as strict as I'll be, like, that's how nice I'll be.
Yeah. 100%.
He's talking about religion, which makes sense, but he's also, as a part of that, talking about spanking kids, which I don't know what it means exactly, but it could mean that he's in a particular conservative Christian group, and Colorado has that for sure. Oh, I mean, everywhere in the United States has that, but there's definitely like a contingent, I guess because I have people that I know in Colorado. Anyway, so there's a chance that he's in a pocket that considers it anti-Christian or even harmful to kids to not spank your kids, which is completely untrue. So I'm guessing the internet isn't going to like this guy for reasons of this, and maybe people will like him because of this.
How would you react if at some point your child told you they were LGBTQ+?
Wow. Yeah, there's a large percentage of Americans that I think very occasionally we'll see glimpses of on the show, but we are seeing it now. Now, maybe she will say, I would love them and be proud of them, and he will say, same, me too. I'm taking a guess to say that's not, but honestly, I'm glad that they're having this conversation. I guess at its foundation, you probably should see eye to eye on those kinds of things, and that they're editing it into the show as well because it's interesting to watch. But my God, if these two are fucking homophobic, I know it exists, but I just don't expose myself to the idiocy and the bigotry, the fucking bigotry. How do bigots wake up in the morning and say to themselves, yeah, I'm going to be a bigot How?
Like, no matter what, I'm always going to love my kids. But, like, I can't tell you I would be the first person to be like, yay!
Yeah. There's various different horrific responses. That's one of them. One could argue there's worse responses, right? I have heard Christians say things like, not all Christians. There are Christians that I know. My mom's Christian. There are many Christians in my family that will absolutely fight for gay rights, LGBTQ rights, and have been for decades. Anyway, so conservative Christians or anti-LGBTQ Christians, they will have this, what I would call like a sly way of talking about it, that they will love their kid and they won't reject them. But deep down, they know that they're wrong. They know that they're sinning. They might not say it to their face. They might not discriminate against their kids. There's various different perspectives, but disappointing and fucking bigoted. What is the difference? What is the difference?
I do know exactly what you mean.
Like, I'll support my kids, but making sure that they're, like, informed. Like, do you know what you're doing? Like, do you know what you're getting into? Like,
the thing that I always just want to scream is like, what if your kid came out as heterosexual? Would you have the same conversation with them? No. because you have a belief. I've had these arguments with people. I have a friend actually that has these attitudes, and he lives in Colorado, and he is actually kind of famous or infamous for pray away the gay and this. Anyway, and I've had a long conversation, which, not necessarily trying to convince him, but maybe a little bit, but more just trying to figure out, like, where is this coming from? Why? It's so illogical. And all of the propaganda points of, well, the liberal agenda, or, lots of people explore things, and meaning that if someone comes out as gay, a kid comes out as gay, then they must be confused. Whereas if they come out as heterosexual, then, okay, yeah, of course. And they'll point to things in the Bible or whatever. And when I press people on this issue, what I find is that if they're aware of why they are saying these things, which not everyone is, some people are just literally parroting what their minister or their people tell them to say. But what they will say is that they just believe that God considers it a sin. It's against nature. And that's their belief. And you can't refute that, because they're talking about a supernatural power and the belief of that supernatural power. And that's the end of the conversation, right? But they'll have all these bullet points that they'll try to throw out, and all of those are easily refuted, which I have done. So, you feel like it's a fad. So, these people, oh my God. Yeah.
Do you know what you're signing up for?
Do you feel like it's a fad, or something
100%.
that's like, you're like, oh, my friend told me I might be this, and like,
It's such a
Shanice
fucking...
said that she's this, so I think I'm this.
And it doesn't apply the opposite direction. Do you know how many people are heterosexual and how many people are signaling their heterosexualness in the media, in life, in advertising, everything? There's so much. So if people were giving into peer pressure, there would be no LGBTQ people, right?
When kids start having those thoughts like too young.
I know I'm preaching to the choir. I hope I'm preaching to the choir. But when LGBTQ people come out, especially in these cultural pockets, which they're cultural pockets, to my non-American viewers out there, this is weird. This is not the norm. When you poll Americans, even in red states, generally speaking, everyone is some version of acceptance and love and reality-based understandings of LGBTQ people. Anyway, so what was I going to say? I forget. That's just wow. But of course, I just don't have to fucking watch it. This is what I signed up for. I have to, but I need to know. 2025. This is 2024. I keep, it's a year, but still, right? Like, what are we doing? Why are people this way? Why are people this way? Why are people this way?
And maybe I'm old-fashioned, but it's like a concern for me, because who's telling you that? One thing I think was really hilarious. It's like,
what I was going to say is that if you are living in a culture like this and you actually come out, then I would much more trust someone that's coming out to me in a community like this than if they were if I had a kid in one of these communities and they were living the heterosexual lifestyle, I would be less sure that they were actually heterosexual than if they came out to me. Because if they were giving into peer pressure, if there was one direction that peer pressure would push them, is to be heterosexual. So, and to be cis, right? So I'm not saying I would distrust a cis het kid, but when someone comes out, I'm like, wow. I mean, the amount of reasons to not come out, not to me, but to the world or whatever. You know what I mean? Anyway, you know this, right?
I'm like, Mom, are you asking me if I'm gay? And she's like, looked at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I'm like, even though that was so weird and like misdirected that she thought I might be like.
Imagine how long it took her to get the guts to come say that to you.
Can you imagine? Because
you would think, given the way they're talking about this, right, that you have a mom that is concerned. So I don't know if I showed the whole clip, but he was sad in high school, and she, according to him, was watching alarmist news on Fox News that if your kid is sad, maybe he's gay. Or anyway, so she comes down and she's beating around the bush, And then he says, are you asking me if I'm gay? You would think that they would all piece this together like, why would someone choose to be gay and therefore be sad and have to hide things? You know what I mean? Like, so both are true in their heads, that it's a trend, but also when you're gay, you get sad and you don't want to tell anyone. You know what I mean? Like,
I was like going through something with like a girlfriend in high school or something at the time, and I was upset, but I wouldn't like tell her why. So she, like, I don't know what dots she tried to connect in her mind to get to that point.
And I'm predicting that the internet will wonder if he's gay. And I will say that previously, I don't have any particular strong gaydar, but I did have a slight question about that. I don't entertain those questions because you can't tell by someone's mannerisms of anything, of course. But I did kind of have but now that he says this, and the mom, who knows? But if someone was going to be closeted, even in their own mind, then that would be the perspective that you would live in, right? Parents, Fox News, conservative Christians. This is why when earlier when I was saying, if I had a teen or a dude who was claiming to be cis-het, but they came from that world, I'd be less assured that they were actually cis-het than if they came out as LGBTQ in that community, right? So along those lines, and this is a story that we've heard before. In fact, the friend that I was talking about earlier that I've had long arguments with, he will admit that he had gay impulses and behaviors, and to him, that's him going down the devil path, and that when he was doing that, it was him giving into the devil or something. And now he is in a heterosexual marriage and has kids and stuff. And now he's living that life. And it's a constant struggle. He kind of equates it with addiction. That's how they often will equate it. I can't know, but it seems possible that he's gay or bi and is, praying away the gay and suffering for no reason. And so, I'm guessing that people are going to speculate and maybe even be very sure that he's gay because they just know. None of us know. And honestly, it's uncool to assume or even really just guess about another human being publicly. It's, people can have their private lives, and if someone says that they're heterosexual and cis, then that's what we take, and we don't impose, even if it is a privileged bigot, we don't impose on anyone. We don't have special rules for cis-het Christians.
That's so funny.
It was really funny. I felt embarrassed for like weeks afterwards. I feel like I had to bring a girl home and smooch her right in front of them just to be like, hey, look, I'm straight.
I know, and then I'm sure they're like, don't do that either.
There's so many things. Bigotry. I'm demoralized. I know intellectually that these people exist, of course, and they exist all over the world. There are worse versions of this around the world. There are worse versions of this in the United States. It could be worse. It's bad. And to see young people, when I was young, when I was their age, I thought, boy, by the time I'm in my 50s, we will have gotten rid of all this bullshit, because all of these attitudes are what old people think. And so, boy, the future is going to be so bright. Ugh. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself. My dogs are barking because you deserve it. You really, really do.